But then like we didn't do it a night, and people were like, hey, you didn't do the poo poo pee pee thing. Like, what the hell?
What is up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in again. This is the Scoped Exposure Podcast. Today's episode is one that has a lot of connection points. And the first connection point is, I talk a lot about the awesome producer of the show, Jordan. Jordan's been the right hand for a lot of Scope stuff in the last many years. And Jordan went down to Snow and Flare Fest and kind of was the lead person, because unfortunately I wasn't able to attend myself. So he was handling the leadership of all the filming and everything. Also shout out to Adam, who helped him second cam. And when he came back from that trip, we were talking about, top sets that we should release. And I was like, and a name on the top 5 bands was Escuela Grind. I'm like, oh, okay. I haven't heard that name before, but like, yeah, I'm excited to look at the footage. And then a couple weeks go by, I start to see more and more recommend. Maybe this is my phone listening to my Facebook conversations with Jordan. But I started to see Escuela Grind reels that started to get pushed to me, and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of understand this a little bit more. And then the one video that kind of pushed me over the edge, and I was like, I need to reach out to this band, is Escuela Grind was doing a pee pee poo poo chant, and seems to be doing that at a number of shows. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. I need to talk. So I'm very, very excited today to be welcoming Katerina from Escuela Grind. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. And that was great. Yeah, I'm glad the pee jokes put you over the edge. That was
I just turned 30 like a week ago, and a good pee poo poo joke still does it for me. So that helps keep things. But like, the jokes aside, I got to listen to your new record front to back today, and I think Escuela Grind is one of those bands that's breaking into new markets with the way you guys are marketing yourself, but also at the end of the day having a really good product for people to find, and a large catalog of music as well. So before we chat about anything music wise, Katerina, we need to check some bevs. So it's tradition for the guests to go first. So tell me what you're going to be sipping on for the episode.
awesome. Okay, so caveat, this is not to promote any specific brands. I love all seltzer equally. So today I am enjoying a bubbly. This is a brand that is probably everywhere in the United States now. It's all right. It's good. It's strawberry.
Yep.
Strawberry today.
Mhm.
So the thing that they do different that I appreciate about them, and this is so small and so stupid and means nothing, but they like print little words on the
Oh,
on the
I don't think I even noticed that.
I don't even know why that matters to me, but I'm like, you know what? Yeah. So it was on sale this week too. That also matters to me.
That
So
also matters.
crack
Very
it,
cool. Yeah.
open a
Yeah,
cold
go
one.
ahead. I think bubbly is interesting because I've kind of publicly talked shit about them on this podcast, and I had to walk it back a little bit for myself, because bubbly, even though it's not my go-to sparkling water of choice, it is the
Can't say that.
entry point for so many people when it comes to getting into the more nerdier sparkling waters, I should say. I had a good friend
Hell
of
yeah.
mine. His name is Blaine. He plays in a band called Spirit of Vengeance, and he's like, on his episode, he was like, I got some sparkling waters to showcase to you, stuff that I haven't even heard about. And like, my Twitter handle is BevCheckGod, so I need to be on in the know of everything. Great choice. I'm gonna have to
Thank you.
check the wording. I didn't. That's a detail I don't think I've even picked up on before.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Oh, and I have to. Okay, so I do have to shout out one brand because it's like our local, like rep your hometown sort of shit. But
Yes, please.
Polar is the Worcester, Massachusetts. Oh my God, all, I
When
knew
we
he was gonna
mention
come and give
Polar,
me a
the
bit.
dogs are just super excited.
Yeah, Husky puppy came up. Yeah,
Mhm.
Polar, Worcester, Massachusetts. They got every kind of seltzer you can imagine.
Mhm. There are some
It's fun.
diehard Polar fans,
Yeah.
especially there's been a lot of guests who have come on from the New Jersey kind of area that they swear by
Oh
it.
yeah, they do Polar too down there, huh?
Yeah. So I have two beverages that I would like to showcase. One is similar to yours, and one is a total, well, similar for another reason. So I also have a sparkling water, which is a
Oh
Aha
yeah.
raspberry acai. So I'm going to be drinking that. Feeling a little dehydrated today, so I need to bring that. But this next bev, this is the one I'm going to start out with, and I've been waiting for a good podcast to do so. And it's similar to
Oh,
yours because of the flavor, not off the kind of bev. So this is called, and again, I've never had this before. So this is the game of the bev check as far as the going into the unknown. So this is Country Time Strawberry Lemonade.
nice. It's like it's everything that is Minute Maid, but country time.
I
It
guess
like they
so.
jacked the logo, the font, the wood paneling in the back. I
Mhm.
noticed that. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay, here we go.
here we go. I have to do a smell test, but I'm gonna cheers you in a second here. This has been in the fridge for a few weeks, so I again I've been this is the silver bullet in the chamber. But Katerina, cheers to you. Really excited to do this podcast with you.
Cheers, my friend. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And drink.
Okay. Initial
What?
impressions: a
Yeah.
very sugary strawberry lemonade, but tasty.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's
Beautiful.
we'll see how it goes. There's definitely been some times where the first sip is okay and then it gets worse throughout. So I'll update you if it's really going south. But obviously we've chatted enough about bevs. Let's talk music. So Katerina, any new guest that comes here on the show, I always like to get a bit of their origin story when it comes to heavy music, hardcore, grind, however you want to spin it. So take me back to like the first time that you were hearing someone scream, a breakdown, distorted guitars, however you want to spin it.
Yeah. So I'm from a small town. We talked a little bit about this earlier when we were chatting, but I'm from a super small town in Western Massachusetts. And I kind of grew up on the more rural side of town. And I'm an only child. So it was lonely times. So I've always kind of uh, talked about how I found heavy music because I wanted a community of people. Like I knew I liked this kind of stuff because I had heard of like Converge. I'm from Massachusetts, and
Of
everyone my
course.
age, like that was
Yeah.
their gateway band, like in a lot of ways. So I really fucking really like Converge, and my best friend likes stuff uh, that was heavier too. Like she liked Kill Switch and like some of the like scene bands that were out at that time too. This is like 2004 to 6, let's say, is the
Hmm.
time frame.
Yep.
So I was 13 to 15. Um, yeah, so we had each other, but we didn't really have like a community. And since we're from a small town, there wasn't too many local shows. There was, but like we were kind of young, and it was hard to find about shows back then. Because we didn't have the internet things that we have today. So we had some of it, but not a lot. So
Mhm.
if you didn't have someone in town that, was flyering, and if the weather was bad and the flyers came down and they didn't go put up new ones,
Yeah.
like you had to have like maps on the flyers and shit just to like find out where you were supposed to go, right? A lot of the times. especially up here in the north, it was, someone's basement, some pawn shop, some skate park,
Right.
all that's general DIY stuff that we have around here. So yeah, in my early years, it was a lot of like researching and researching from what we could in those days online of like bands and who was out. I did another interview today and I talked about like the Hellfest DVDs and how important
Hmm.
those were to us and like going and renting music DVDs from Blockbuster and stuff and like the library. Oh my God. Like I don't know if kids are still like influenced by the library or like going there to like get music and take out stuff. But it was definitely a way for me to get a lot of music back then. I'm sure it is for people to enjoy actual albums and records now. So
Hmm.
yeah, you can take out a library card in the States and like if any library has it, basically, they'll get it to you. So if there's like this obscure album that one library in the country has, like there's a way you can probably get it to yours and check it out and feel the record and and stuff like that and
Yeah.
tapes and CDs.
That's a
I don't
pretty
know.
big life hack just because, like a lot of people would talk about like certain record stores where they would go pick up CDs and look up all different
Oh yeah.
fans of. But I like the idea of, hey, you don't have money? Go to a local library and just be like, hey, do you have this CD? Do you have like this Terror album or anything like that?
Sure.
And then
They
to
absolutely
see
love
about like that
that.
network. So yeah, the accessibility like of hardcore a huge uh has always been necessary to get people into it. So like I love the idea of hacking your local library to get records that you love. I think
Sure.
that's sick.
Thanks. Yeah, that was it's what we had back then, but it's also like still valuable now in a lot of ways. And there's like I mean, not to like get so off talking about the library, but for it ties when I was a kid, like, having all these different interests and having a lot of feelings at once, a lot of them being angry and like for me that was like visual art and music that I got into it, but like I found out a lot about a lot of music at the library. I was able to like now you can like 3D print stuff at the library if you like go it's crazy.
Right.
So like anything you want to foster and if like just thinking back to that time, I think that was a really big part of it that I didn't really realize until just now.
Right. Yeah. So, I wanna. I also think it's worth mentioning, like, if you're from the area that you are, like, Converge is like the given band that I'm sure was kind of your like local hometown hero kind of thing. And like for myself, like I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, which is like dead center of Canada, and that local band for me was Comeback Kid. And I got to see
Oh
Comeback
yeah,
Kid,
nice.
when it was like post Scott Wade, and then I got to see the 10 it around anniversary where he came back to do vocals. And now in time, I've been able to befriend a lot of those members through this podcast and my own band. So like, obviously later in the convo, we're going to be talking about your new record and getting to work with Kurt Ballou, and I'm sure that's a very full circle moment. But how vital was it to have a local band that was scaling to a degree that Converge did and still is. Like I feel like they're one of those legacy acts. But
Yeah.
did that help inspire you when it came to like wanting to play music, or were you just in awe of anything that was happening?
Yeah, so I guess I have to preface it by saying that like and especially back then because I was so young and I didn't have a car or anything like that. Converge was on the other side of the state for us, so which is like only 2.5 hours away, but it's like it felt like a whole other world. So like,
Sure. Okay.
yeah, like you're from Boston and like I rep Boston because I'm from Massachusetts, but like I barely would go there, like rarely went there for shows until I got a car and stuff when I was late
Sure.
like 18, 19. So it was like it was cool to see it happening, but it also felt very distant.
Mm,
And in Western Mass, it's like Appalachian Mountains. So there's like the scenes are like spread apart and um it was they didn't the communication wasn't as good as it is now. But like we had for our local scene, if you could even call it that, because we were even an hour far away from that. Like Kill Switch Engage was there. Let's see who else from like everyone talks to like the Pixies. Like they talked about Western Mass a lot. So
Mhm.
like it's a it's a strange thing that somewhere so small could feel so distant. So I guess that might have influenced a little bit about how I felt. Like it felt so out of reach. Like they were like rock stars. Like for me, like growing up, like Motley Crue level like rock stars, and they're like just the chillest, coolest guys. Like and to know some of them now is just like it's like wow, I built this up in my head to be such a monumental feat to like have a band and do well and get on big festivals and put out art and stuff. And I built it up in my head when I was that age to be so impossible for myself,
Right.
that now to like have some small taste of like touring and getting on festivals and recording with people you really respect, it's like, wow, it's nice. It's like you can
Yeah.
do that. Like,
Yeah,
don't even doubt.
I definitely think there's always a degree of like imposter syndrome where it's like, am I allowed? Like, should I be getting these things? But at the same time, like, whether it's like me getting a high level guest for this podcast or my band getting to do something, like, I have people that knew me from like when it was like ground zero level work, where it's like, no, you work towards those things.
Yeah,
And at the same time, like, I do think that there is I do appreciate hearing when people like yourself are getting these opportunities and they still feel they're humbling themselves enough to realize that, like, hey, like, that that isn't owed, that isn't something that should just like fall in my lap. I did work for it, but I'm still appreciative that we even the stars aligned, because I would rather work and align myself with those people than people that just assume that they're in some hype band and they get to play X Fest every year.
yeah. I mean, in the end of the day, like comes down to how much you want to be there. Really like if it's hard for you to get there, or if it feels like it's impossible for you to get there, once you get to your goal, it's like I don't know. For me, it's like how bad do you want to stay there,
Hmm.
and was it worth it? And is it as good as you thought it was? And if it's not as good as you thought it was, what can you do to make it better? Sort of a thing.
Yeah.
It's really vague.
Yeah. But it's
Thank you.
also like that classic trope where it's like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And like that's something like, you know, like I've been doing scoped now for 5.5 years, and I feel like any new destination that we hit, there's always a desire, like, how can we keep growing? And so,
Yeah,
being able to just enjoy the process of at least trying for a band. But I do agree that like it doesn't take much. Something that's wild to me is like sometimes I like to go to the very back of someone's Instagram and then kind of like do a comparison arc of like, and a lot of people
yeah.
delete and archive a lot of shit. But for you, what was interesting, also, by the way,
Oh
your
no, oh
Instagram
no.
handle is I didn't know uh Lucifer was straight edge. So
Yeah, I got in with the early, and I've had that
yes, very
Instagram
much so. That's a
handle.
high value straight edge Instagram handle.
I've probably been on that since like 2011 or 12 or something like
Yeah.
that. At least
You
it's
protect
I can't imagine,
that.
can't imagine what you found in the back of my. I don't think it's a lot, but
Yeah. There's a past job of mine, we interviewed someone who's he's like he came from hardcore, but now he's like a Oxford University like professor, and his Twitter name is straight edge. And
nice.
I was like,
Good for him.
dude, round of applause. So shout out to Nathan Lane if you're listening. But anyways, what I was gonna say is the very first IG post, as far as the time recording this, I don't know if you're like, oh, maybe I should go back and clean up some of my early
Yeah.
Instagram posting. But the earliest one that I could find is you taking a photo at a Napalm Death show and being like, I love
Yeah.
this band. And then fast forward, and that was 2013, and we're recording this interview in 2023, and y'all have announced that you're
Nice.
playing shows with
Holy shit.
them. So that's like,
That wasn't
that's a 10-year transformation.
nice. Yeah, that puts it all into perspective. I just I fucking love that band. I can't say it in any other way. They're so influential on what we do, influential on music, period. I mean, like uh, they made the map for so much of what so many of us do that like in order like it's just such an honor to get to play with them. Like I've been manifesting it for a long time, but we just love them so much, and I'm so stoked to go on tour next month in Europe with them.
Yeah.
And Drop Dead too. I mentioned Converge, but Drop Dead is also in that equation of local, quote unquote, local, 2 hours away, but they're from Providence.
Mm-hmm.
And Drop Dead was probably the most influential, heavy, still hardcore punk, power violence, whatever you wanted to call it back then, too. And like the message and stuff. Like, I'm not vegan, I'm vegetarian. I've always, but like the message of the band is like so clear with everything too. And back then, like that was, I don't know, just Drop Dead is definitely a part of the equation of how heavy music has evolved here on the East Coast, New England in specific. So like hats off, shout out to them.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess like that was an earlier thing I wanted to ask, but I felt like it was important to bring it up this early because I think it is important for people listening. They can get lost in like the monthlies, the measuring arcs that are just too like minor and not major. And I think it's cool to be like, if you're playing in a dope band and trying to think about what can we do in 5 years, not just what can we do this year, and like really trying to like, put your money where your mouth is and like, go out and play shows and like put yourself out there. And it doesn't take much that I've seen with so many bands who do that even just for a year at a level of intensity, and it like changes shit for their entire lives. So yeah, it's very interesting. So we've talked a little bit about like some of the local stuff. What was like the main inspiration piece for you wanting to start to play music, or was that always something that was embedded in you when you were growing up?
Hmm. I mean, I always had a desire for the arts in general. I was like my parents aren't musical at all or artsy at all or anything, so it wasn't anything I picked up from them per se. But like I was always around arts, music, and theater. Just where we are here in Massachusetts, it's like a big hub for like the hoity-toity arts. So like we have two really famous museums here that have like world-class stuff in it. So like when you grow up seeing that and seeing like anyways, so I always thought I was visually that was kind of like my path for a lot of my young adult life. But music, I really, really wanted to be good at music. I was like really, really stubborn about it. I tell stories sometimes, but it's like kind of embarrassing that like we started, you pick an instrument when you're in public school and you start with that and you learn how to read music that way and stuff. And I picked the clarinet because my best friend picked the clarinet, and I also had one from my uncle, so that's what I picked. And for 2 years, I was just not understanding how to read music. Like it was not clicking with me, and so I was just watching what my best friend was doing with her fingers and memorizing it, and then playing it, and then like
interesting.
watching her do it. And I wouldn't admit that I didn't know how to read music. And then like band teacher called me, like years later being like, do you not know how to read music? And he's like, well, how have you been playing this whole time? I was like, yeah. So then I learned how to read music, and I was just super stubborn. I was just so stubborn about like like I can do this. I can learn how to play this. It does not come easy for me or naturally, like in a lot of ways. Singing is the same, like clean singing. What I do for Escuela never come easy. I won't say it's natural at all because it's just not for me. I had to like hone what I wanted to do, and I don't even still feel like I'm there. Uh, Learning how to scream was I didn't I don't think I did it right or the way that you're supposed to without killing your voice until like probably a year ago.
Mm,
Um, so that was so maybe I can't point to a specific like album or concert or artist that kind of pushed me towards music. I think it was just that I always really wanted to play instruments, and I was really stubborn about like being competent in it, and not trying to be like I would be like I had dreams of like shredding and shit, you know what I mean? But like
sure.
as long as I could learn like power chords, that was like proving something to me, you know.
Mm.
So being really persistent with it, even when it wasn't easy. So
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. Like the just the openness of like this doesn't come naturally to me, but I'm so obsessed of like wanting to figure it out. Is that just a level of
yeah,
like I'm just and I'm just trying to dissect it in a way is like is were you trying to do that stuff on the clarinet side or even on the band stuff off of like I want to be a part of, this the orchestra band or just like the regular band and I will, to my dying breath like figure out how to do it or was it something that's more in your brain of being able to like see something through? I'm just kind of curious on that.
I think it's both things with instruments for sure. Like I want to be with the band. I want to be good. I also want to prove to myself that I can do it. And I'm very like I don't know what the word is, but when you're like hyper focused on stuff, if I hyper focus and I like have to get it done, like point A to B.
Right.
But when I was growing up, I was like young. I would do like musicals and plays and stuff at school, and I was always singing in the choir and stuff. So that felt natural for like to be theatrical and put on a production. I guess you could say that included music. That was kind of something that was always there more towards but with instruments and writing music and stuff, it was all about being a part of the whole.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess like you mentioning earlier you being an only child, I'm sure that might be even more amplified off of like I don't want to be alone and like not understanding how to play the clarinet, so I'm going to memorize the movements here. Um, but it's interesting that you bring up the musical theater side of things because that's something that I don't, well, haven't heard that ever come up on the podcast, but never really thought about um, how that is and can be used in a live setting for any kind of band. Doesn't matter if it's a hardcore band or a
Mhm.
grindcore band, just because there are so many bands that I see and love musically, but seeing them live is like painstakingly boring. Just because, certain people don't want to move around, certain people just don't give to like the performance side of things. And that's always, at least for me, has been something where it's like a certain guitar player, a drummer, or a vocalist will catch my eye, and they're the only ones that I'm watching. Like I'm
Mm,
listening to the music as a whole, but I'm watching them because their
mhm.
their musicianship is on point, but also just like the way that they sell it is that much more. So that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, uh, if it's two things that I've done in my life that have prepared me to be a front person, it is doing musicals as a small child and being a server at a restaurant and bar. Like those two things, like being able to look people in the eye, being able to kind of sell something, I guess, in a way. Like you want to sell the the performance, the emotion that you've written into the songs, like whether it be through lyrics or like, I don't care if you're an instrumental band and stuff, you can still sell the emotion that you had writing the
Right.
songs. And theatricality, I guess if you want to call it that, is like it's absolutely what we do. I mean, shit, everyone just went and saw Merciful Fate and Midnight and then that package. Like, what could be more spectacular and theatrical than that? And it's
Hmm.
like, uh, and it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be like a big level production, but like what you said, if there's an artist, like one member out of the band that's playing with that emotion and you can see it, it's like infectious to watch. So
Totally. Yeah. And like the whole like selling it aspect is like um also knowing that not everyone is gonna buy into it, but you're still selling it. You
oh
can't
sure.
deny that like that you're showing up and you're putting on something that it's like either take this or leave this. And I think that's a huge thing for people. It's like I would rather put on a killer ass show with any project that I do and have people
Mhm.
either love it and they become lifelong fans, or there's people that are like, I hate that, and they just like fade away into the ethos.
Yeah. Yeah. And like even taking that aspect further, like I guess like for me, a lot of the time, like we on this last record, there was some personal songs, right? So like you're not always when you're performing in that same headspace that you are with those emotions that you wrote that song in. And there's this artist who I really like named Samus. She's awesome. She's like a nerdcore rapper. Um,
Oh,
she
is she
talks a
is
lot of
she named after the almighty
yeah,
Samus?
exactly. So yeah,
So
she's really
sick.
cool. Check it. Um, but like she talks about like she wrote these songs and they're her most popular songs, but they were about an awful time in her life and awful experiences, and they're extremely emotional. And like you're in this cool setting of being at a show, and now you have to like sell, because I said that word earlier, but sell the idea that you're suffering over this breakup, the life accident, anything that happened to you in the past or whatever, that there's no way you're going to get out of the show space into that space. So like you have to kind of bring up those emotions again out of nowhere and sort of deliver the message.
Hmm.
So yeah. And it's detrimental sometimes to your head because you're like, God, I don't want to bring that up and kill the mood for myself. But it's you wrote the songs and people resonate with the message, so
Hmm.
you have to kind of put yourself there for it.
Yeah.
So that's Sam was talking about a little, but yeah.
Yeah, I've had other people mention on that subject off of like as soon as someone else connects with your music off of it, it almost like doesn't become just yours anymore, and it becomes a part of that person as well. So you know, there
Oh
are
yeah.
certain people that are better at being able to set emotions aside when they're playing certain songs because they know it's going to mean a lot to play that song for that person, but maybe they wrote those lyrics 10 or 15 years ago, so they're like, I haven't even thought about the person that I wrote the
Yeah.
song about, or the situation that I was in when I wrote that. So that's always interesting. So let's talk about like the origin of Escuela Grind. Tell me about like, is that your first band? Were you doing a number of other bands before, and it was like a side project that kind of morphed into this? Talk to me about that.
Well, for me, just me alone. Escuela was my first serious band. Escuela Grind. It was Escuela back then. We got sued. It was stupid. We changed our name to Escuela Grind. That's the short story of it. But yeah, we started out in those times. We were in Ithaca, New York. Um, I was in school. Our drummer Jesse was in school as well, um, and we we were doing more of like a fast core thing with our original guitarist, really short fast core power violence, a little grindcore influence too, like old school, some tuba tuba parts. So like people called it mints and stuff, but it wasn't really mint. But um, so yeah, we started doing that. Like it was real humble origins in central New York. We hit the ground running though. We played a lot of shows back then. We were like booking shows too, and we were pretty ambitious with that. And it was a wild ride, and so we got to play a lot of really cool shows. We got to put on a lot of really cool shows, and we moved away from Ithaca, New York, which is in central New York, to where I'm from, here, Pittsfield, Mass. And so our new guitarist, Chrissy, who's not our new guitarist, is this is 2018. So,
Right.
uh, but so our guitarist, Chrissy, was new at the time. She lived in Albany, New York, still does, which is about an hour, 45 minutes away from here. So that's how we were doing the band for a long time. Now we have a bass player, but we kind of changed our sound around 2018 to be a little bit more grindy, leaning, lots of death metal influence, a little bit more hardcore too. I'm sorry, I'm getting assaulted by my.
The dogs are always welcome. Any avid fan of the show knows there's been dogs barking, and I have to deal with them.
Oh, yeah.
So the tables have turned, it seems.
But yeah, I mean, so we started in New York, fastcore stuff, real DIY, dubbing tapes, bootleg as fuck shirts, touring in a 4-door car sort of situation with, real DIY beginnings for a long time. And with this iteration of us, we kind of broadened ourselves more and are trying to do more musically. And I'm definitely trying to do a lot more conceptually now, just because there was just no, we started the band, it was like not purely with intentions to like have this go forever and be like this worldwide touring thing. I mean, the aspiration was there from us all, but like we didn't know what was going to happen. It was just kind of put together because we didn't have any grindcore bands in town really, and there was 3 grindcore kids in town, and we all needed to do something, so we just got together and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So,
The grindcore Avengers were there, and just had to, didn't have to have a Nick Fury to put the team together. So when you moved back, was the moving back and the name change and the genre change kind of all at the same time?
Fairly close, within the same year, but like fairly close in time to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we graduated. It's cheaper to live over here. I have some family here, so it was time to go. But definitely moving here facilitated practicing with Chrissy, which meant we were writing more together, and we definitely influenced the sound, the moving. So
Gotcha. So once Chrissy was in the picture, like they were bringing in a little bit more of the style that y'all wanted to head towards as well.
yeah, I think it's just like maybe it was just like a paradigm shift in like the shows that we were going to, and the basically like our roots. Like it was just time to broaden things up and be more, allow ourselves to be more.
Right. Right. And we don't have to hit on this a lot because you gave the short version as far as the name change goes. As far as there's another band that was threatening to sue, and it was just like a whole thing. And the only thing that I want to say to that is, I think that is a huge tell that your band sucks. If you are that concerned, if your music won't stand on its 2 feet tall enough, that you need to go and try to do that. Because every single band who's come on this podcast, and I've been in the midst of this myself with one of my current projects, is someone comes up and is threatening this, and I go to check it out. I'm like, this shit sucks. So clearly you're threatened, and you're sinking down to like really like whack ways of being able to do that. And like there was a part of me that was like, maybe I should go and listen to this band just to see how bad it is, but I won't. I didn't even want to give them that. So
Yeah.
so that's all I wanted to say on that point. But it's interesting that it was kind of around the same time when you're like, okay, what can we do to kind of like dodge this scenario? We can just add grind to our name because that's where we're going as well. So I think that was a smart move to help, you know,
Yeah.
walk that in a little bit.
Yeah. Truth of the matter was it was already our Instagram handle. So we're like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's just do
Yeah, we won't have to change the IG handle, so
it.
we could keep it that way. Um, so yeah, that's the thing. That you're mentioning, like humble beginnings, starting in another city, and it didn't the it would be nice to go to do Europe and all these other things, but it wasn't like we must do this. We need to work our asses off to make sure that happens. But when did, from your perspective, things start to like take a shift and be like, whoa, like what's happening here? When was the what's happening here moment for you? Or has that even happened yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so like steady along the years, and we've just been always doing stuff. I mean, save for COVID, that's a whole other separate thing. But
Mhm.
like, every milestone we hit, in a way, I'm like, whoa, because I just never thought I would be able to do something like this. So for me, every new thing we experience is that, and it still continues to be that, and I'm looking forward to more of that. But yeah, I mean, like when we started, we were ambitious, but like not like whatever it was gonna be, like it was gonna be. I mean, like some people are ambitious, but they're like hell bent on this one thing. And this is stupid. I don't even know if I believe in this shit, but like, like the magic shit where it's like be careful what you for. There's always like a catch. Like you'll get what you want, but there's something
At what
attached
cost?
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So like if you focus so hard on one thing and you don't get it, like what I just I don't know. I don't see the point in that in a lot, and I'm a person that worries a lot, so that's saying something. So yeah, while we were ambitious, it wasn't like we have to do X, Y, and Z, like you said. So, and that too adds on to the every milestone we hit. It's like a whole new feeling and a new excitement, and just now this past year, I've been starting to allow myself to get out of that really. You mentioned imposter syndrome mindset earlier, and I don't know if that's exactly what it is, um, but like I've allowed myself to kind of come out of that and start thinking about, okay, what are the new goals that I want to do? Like my goals were so broad, but like we have a platform, a small platform, but a platform. Any measure of that is significant. So I'm now starting to think about what it is that this needs to do in the future for
Totally.
me personally, and for the band, and for heavy music too. So that's new thoughts, kind of scary,
Yeah,
but
I think it's very, again, it's I think it's that balancing act of like being ambitious but also being, grateful if, meteor hits the world tomorrow, and not being like, as you're watching it come down, and be like, man, I'm really pissed I didn't film that, or I didn't play that fest or whatever. Like being like stoked at, the progress that you made. And I think everybody's got their own specific, like, I would really like to do X with X band. And, sometimes that happens and sometimes that doesn't. And, like I've been able to like there's been certain guests that I've had on the show that like have really been like, you're the reason I bought my first guitar because you played it in your band and blah blah blah. So there's always like nice things, but I do think that like if you keep things a little broad, any other cool opportunity that always is connected to the next thing is like that, I feel like comes way more naturally, and then it feels like it's an extra surprise because you weren't expecting it.
oh, for sure. like I think when you say stuff like that, the one of the first people that comes to mind that's kind of done something like that is that like Tommy Wright the third. Like, do you think back in the day in Memphis he was thinking about that he was going to be playing with a bunch of like these heavy bands and have people moshing and showing and stuff, like all these little white hardcore boys were going to be like going crazy for him in 2022?
Mhm.
Like, but if you remain open to it as an artist, and he's a real DIY artist too, so like that helps. But like if you remain open to these things and appreciate every milestone, like you'll be surprised at what comes out of it. And we've had some experience with that too, because we've always with all sorts of different genres, like every genre probably.
Mhm.
So that leaves us open to making friends with different bands. And I'm not gonna poo-poo too much about, grindcore elitists and whatnot. Like we talked about that a lot in the past. Like, but like to be so closed-minded about like what is acceptable, especially when we're doing extreme music, like is defeats the purpose to me, really honestly. And a lot of those types like to give high praise to something that's intentionally shitty, or like, yeah, we know it sounds like toilet sounds, but that's what makes it good, but then to go around and call something that doesn't fit that mold or isn't in their eyes that authentic or whatever, shitty is like, oh, what, like you like shitty now, you don't like I don't know. So for us, always being open minded has brought so many great opportunities and whatnot. Like we have so many friends now in bands that we would have never been asked to play with, or like at a certain point in time, like they would have never booked a mixed band bill with bands like them, before. And now like we're talking about going on tours and stuff, and we're all
Mhm.
doing well for each other. Like, and we're nothing really like each other in terms of music, but it works, and our fans are following each other, and like people that like us will go and check them out, and it's like it's cohesive for some reason, and
Right.
it's great. So
Yeah, and it's interesting to see like definitely a lot of, playing Snow and Flurry Fest is like there's a lot of like metal or death metal or grind
oh
bands
yeah,
on
yeah,
that fest, but like looking at your at the band Instagram, there's like definitely like metal heavy tours. But,
yeah.
like I think I was like just kind of going around when I was prepping for this, and Chrissy, um, she was posting like one of her top records was the Dose release from last year, and I was like, I love Dose and I love Derek, and like that band is fucking sick. So that's like a very cool, unexpected thing, and even just off of the other interviews, you guys like you work with friend of the show Cole, and get all your stuff printed through Printhead, and it's like it's wild to see like how plugged. I think it just becomes apparent where you don't have to dig very deep to be like, oh, these people come from the hardcore scene, even though they're not necessarily playing straight up two-step hardcore music. But if anything, I feel like the hardcore scene, post pandemic, there's been a lot of bands like, if you look at hardcore as like an umbrella term, that I think Escuela Grind definitely fits under that as far as the people that are connected to it. So
Yeah, we definitely. I think all of us come from hardcore. When I met our drummer, I was introduced to them as Hardcore Jesse. So like, they didn't even have a hardcore band at the time. So
right.
like, so like, I mean, I grew up here. We had amazing hardcore in the '90s and early 2000s. Like
Mhm.
unforgettable shows. Like, so much fucking violence. Like it was insane. Um,
I'm sure.
but like, I remember it really fondly. So I've always just loved hardcore, and I love that now we're being exposed to more hardcore bands, audience fans, for lack of better words to call it. But like a big part of that for us was Sunny from Hate 56. He's uploaded our videos in the past, but he came to a couple of our Philly shows and uploaded them more recently because it was, after the pandemic. And for some reason, like a bunch of new people found out about us through that, and continue to do so. So
Hmm.
that's pretty wild. I love it. I love
Yeah.
that, and I love that um, Sunny does that and has given that spark to a lot of younger kids too to try and do their own version of that because although
I am one of
the
those. So
exactly, yeah,
yeah.
like, yeah, the internet democratized it for us to be able to have these shows and whatnot, but didn't make our lives easier to handle running a full production with no help, basically, a lot
Right.
of the time. So,
Hmm.
the fact that Sunny can do that is incredible, and has grown, and and just one video from Sunny can do so much for a band, and that's incredible. And we're so grateful uh, for that, and grateful for the hardcore kids that come to our shows because they know how to dance, and we like that. We
Yes.
like that a lot.
Yeah, it's yeah, like scoped exposure. Like I wouldn't be sitting in this chair talking to you if Sonny wasn't doing what he's doing. Like
Hell yeah.
he really inspired me, and scoped originally started as me just filming bands locally, and then obviously evolved and started this podcast. But it's very interesting that you say that because like uh, the only band in Western Canada where I live that has that converge kind of influence subtly is and I hope that after this and anyone listening should go check out this band as well if you haven't, is a band called False Body. False Body is from a city just 2.5 hours north of me. um, they don't really do as much like touring as they do like maybe just a couple regional things, but anytime I would upload a set of theirs because they would be playing so much pre or post COVID. And anytime they're like Michelle, their vocalist, or Lee, their guitar player, would always message being like, I don't know why, but every single time it's like there's 4 to 5 to 20 people that are finding out about it through your channel and doing it that
Oh,
way.
that's
So
awesome.
um yeah, so quick plug to them. So yeah, but it is interesting too because like I looked back and there's lots of past videos that Sunny had done for you guys, but it seems like this after post COVID era of the band is where things are really picking up. So let's fast
Yeah,
forward a
for
little
sure.
bit to the record
Yeah.
that y'all put out at the very end of last year, Memory Theater, which
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but I realized when I was typing things out, um, Canadians spell theater differently,
RE.
R-E.
Yes, that's
So
how
I
I
was just
want
like,
to spell it.
and I like had to like
That's
add
how
the
I
word.
spell it too. I don't know why. I don't know why I spell it that way, but I do. And the artist spelled it ER, and I was just like, we'll leave it like that,
Sure, why not?
basically.
Um,
And
so you recorded that record with Kurt Ballou, and like we were talking about a little bit earlier, as far as that full circle aspect of being able to work with, you know, the Boston rock stars, as you said. So the record came out at the end of last year, but I'm sure like the prep and the recording time like it was a whole long thing. But what have you been most excited about since putting that out and being able to play those songs live now?
yeah, I mean that was a COVID album. We all lived, me, Chrissy, and Jesse lived together during COVID, and we pretty much wrote the whole, almost all of it during that time. And we demoed a lot and edited the songs a lot, and we were focused on really seeing how we could compose the songs to manipulate people to dance. Like, it was like, how can we make people move in this part? And like that was a big focus of a lot of the composition for it. And they can speak more to that than I can because I didn't write the songs. I just did the vocal patterns and the lyrics. But like, we were watching videos almost every day of like other bands that we liked and shows, and we were just like so focused on the show aspect and how they would sound live. So now to be able to play them live to the audience that we were like envisioning in our minds a lot of the times is just like it's it's like you're manifesting it into reality in a really cool way. So like to be able to play songs off of Memory Theater when we went over to Czech Republic and played Obscene Extreme, that was like a huge milestone for us as a band. Like that festival is like that was like I've always just wanted to go. I didn't think I would be able to play, and then to experience it in that way and have people going absolutely fucking crazy at 1:30 in the afternoon, like it was just so great. And to
Mhm.
like play those songs and see them resonate with people that probably don't even speak our language and like have never heard of us before, it's just it was amazing, amazing.
Mm. Yeah. Um, with you guys have had a few releases beforehand. What were there any songs lyrically or vocally like that were really challenging for you to record? Because like Kurt Ballou is someone that I looked up to immensely. Like he hasn't been on this show specifically, but I used to work for a podcast where we had him on as a guest, and he
Right.
is a wise ass dude. But
Yeah.
I would
Wow.
I would always feel like, man, if I go record this album and I'm not showing up the way that I want to, I'm gonna be fucking like, "Ugh," I know that I'm
Yeah.
working with that person, but I'm curious if you had any moments like that, anything that you want to share on that front.
I mean, that question is better asked to probably Chrissy, our guitar player, who sat and recorded multiple layers of guitar tracks by herself and the bass too. And that was like her first like studio experience, and
Mhm.
with Kurt, who's also an influence on her. So like that was pretty intense, and we had a very narrow window to do it in. But like I've people ask me about Kurt a lot because like everyone loves him, and like God City is like practically legendary at this point.
Oh,
So
definitely
um,
is. Yeah.
I will I will say this about it was very daunting to go in and record with Kurt. However, when you're there and if you appreciate his way of doing things, he's super easygoing to be around, and he's cracking jokes, and like he has a very specific sense of humor that we vibe with. And I just love being in the studio with him. It was really cool to watch him work, like and like really zone in on Pro Tools and stuff because I'm interested by that stuff. But it was also just fun to like everyone's recording in the main room, and me and him would turn down for a minute and talk about like obscure shit and like BMX movies from the 80s, and like yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's a cool dude.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe it's time because I have Kurt's number, so maybe I need to send him a text to be
Yeah, come
if he's
on.
down to come on the pod. I read on there was a Revolver feature of you that you're an architect professionally.
Yeah, I'm a licensed architect in Massachusetts.
Okay, so what's interesting about that when it comes to your music is that at least in the article it was saying how like how there's like aspects of your professional world that have helped influence your creative side as well. Is there anything that you want to clarify or talk about there?
Yeah, I mean, so before when I was in school for architecture, so I really I didn't talk about that much in like earlier stuff. But on this record, Memory Theater, I had a lot of basically the concepts of the Memory Theater was lifted from art history and just history in general. And so I took that concept and like applied it to what we do, and I used a lot of like construction and architectural terms to kind of build this internal architecture of the
Build. I
mind.
know that term.
That's one. And yeah, so it's just kind of using that language and and like the metaphysical sort of aspects of being an architect and putting that into the lyrics of this album. So
Mm,
like previously in in other albums and EPs that we've had, I kind of just talked about, societal anxieties, like big things that were happening, like sometimes some political stuff. And I was just writing about that and how it sucks, basically, and maybe a couple songs about what we can do about it. But with this record, I wanted to, take those big societal topics and anxieties and maybe kind of take a step back, sort of in a way, and maybe not talk about stuff directly per se. But I wanted to make a record about how we compartmentalize and deal with those things, those social anxieties, political, economical, all the terrible shit that goes on in the world, like how we take it in, internalize it, build around it, build ourselves up with it. What do we do with that? So
Right.
it was a less direct way of talking about it, which I appreciated, and I could kind of use those terms, from my expertise in architecture to help me say what I wanted to say in that way, because
Mhm.
it's I kind of struggle with uh with writing lyrics, I would say. It's maybe I'm too harsh on myself, but I edit them a lot, and I have a hard time like condensing and editing and making something as straightforward as it can. And I spent a lot of time on this record, um, distilling the things that I wanted to say and making them as simple and repeatable as possible. Because
Sure.
you want to say a lot, people remember very little, and if you want your message to spread, it has to be, you know, able to be digested and spread out easily. So
Mhm.
maybe that comes full circle with the poo poo pee pee video that we I think it does.
Um,
That's our big political message is the poo poo pee pee.
yeah, you set me up perfectly for a segue into that.
Nice.
Who who started that?
Definitely Jesse, our drummer.
Okay, so Hardcore Jesse starts it. Was it a joke at a
There you go.
certain show that it was like so funny that you kept it going, or because
That
it
definitely
wasn't just
happened.
one video. I started to
No.
scroll and it would be the poo poo pee pee, but in Boise, and
Yeah,
then the next
yeah,
one's in Seattle, and then in
yeah.
Portland. And I'm like, oh, this is
This is the
the
thing.
this is the thing. So yeah, like
Well, it was like, yeah, on that tour, it kind of happened as you described it. Like we did it, or Jesse started it one night and it hit and it was funny and it made the other bands laugh. So maybe we did it again. But then, like, we didn't do it a night and people were like, hey, you didn't do the poo poo pee pee thing. Like, what the hell? So, like, and then people expected it. And then, like, some nights Jesse would switch it up. And I think we were in, where was it? Tampa, Florida. Yeah, Tampa, Florida. And we did a "These Nuts on Your Chin." That went over well in
oh,
Tampa, Florida.
interesting.
Right? Um,
So it's almost like
yeah,
you need to have a specific one for each place that you go to.
perhaps we do.
Perhaps. That's a whole like B-sides album for the band. No, it's hilarious. Poo and pee
Thank
jokes
you.
are fucking hilarious.
We love
There's
it.
no way to get around that.
And it's like it's really funny because like you saw that on Instagram, right? Like it just came up on Instagram or whatever. And like Instagram is being real goofy right now, but like if you post like a 6-second video doing something goofy, like Instagram takes that and like really sends it out there. Like I don't know like what they're doing or why that's the case, but
Right.
it's working out. Like I guess we've had a lot of exposure on like a couple little clips and stuff on Instagram and TikTok even and stuff like I'm not really great at those both of those. I do some of it, but Chrissy and Jesse kind of mostly take over that. I'm gonna be honest. So
Yeah.
we
So
all
yeah, and the next question I was about to ask was about that was like was the idea of like being super active online like kind of out the get-go, or was that something where it was like, you guys had maybe one viral poo poo pee pee like moment or whatever, and then it was like, oh, like this shit actually works if we put shit out and people
Yeah.
resonate with it.
I think honestly, like the amount, like the frequency to which we post is kind of indicative of how much we tour.
Right.
Um, you have to post something every night, and they don't show flyers to people, and maybe people don't care about flyers like that. So we've gotten creative with what we can take pictures of us with, and what we can post, and how we can. So maybe it's not like something we're immediately thinking about in the moment while we're doing it, but it's definitely helped us to do things like that. So like this year we had hundreds and hundreds of shows. So like we were posting for all that, and it definitely forces you to keep posting something, which helps with the outreach. But lately we've been trying to think of ways to keep it going. We've had a couple little like cool things pop off, and there's always some kid at the show that comes up and was like, "Oh, I found out about you guys on Instagram. I saw you in the Sailor Moon costume doing that thing," or like, "I saw you from Sunny," or
Mhm.
it's people find out about music in the craziest ways now. So
Yeah.
like we've seen the results of it. It's hard to not do it anymore, or not to think about doing it. It's just like when we post a 6-second headbanging clip, it's like, well, what 15-year-old's gonna see this and come out to the show and be like, it's my first metal show. Happened. I'm not even exaggerating because it's
Right.
happened.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Like I think the same mentality as far as like, um, okay, we're gonna try like we can attract new eyes and ears to our band through multiple means. And that could be, getting filmed by Sunny, like getting something that like goes a little viral on a specific platform, getting to play a cool fest with a bunch of other bands. Like I think that all nets into a really good strategy for any band to take, because I think the same thing applies. I think a lot of people will get like twisted in their head. It's like like once we play This Is Hardcore, it's game over. Or
Yeah.
once we get filmed by Sunny, it's game over. And it's like it could be, but it probably is gonna give a little bit, but that runs
You have to
dry pretty
sustain.
quick. It's the
We always say,
Sorry, you
oh,
go.
go ahead.
No, no,
No,
you
no.
go.
Well, I was just gonna say, we always say if the train, if the train stops moving, people get off. So you have to take, that little spark that you put in people from a Sunny video or a little viral thing, and you have to, you know, show them who you are and provide interest.
Hmm.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. No, I like that analogy of like if the train keeps running, even if it's at like a slower pace, because maybe you're in between tours or something, there's
Mhm.
still like a momentum that you're trying to keep people engaged off of.
Absolutely.
I think that the point that I was trying to say is it's kind of the same thing with like a lot of people put only their eggs basket wise into Instagram or just into
Oh yeah.
TikTok or something. And like as a creative, I know full well like being able to spread myself across YouTube, across Facebook, across Instagram, like that all nets into a thing, because all of these platforms at the end of the day are free for people to use. And
Mm,
all it takes is one bad feature on Instagram or TikTok to potentially tank the entire platform. And then all the bands
mhm.
that are only on Instagram are like, oh, what the fuck? And they're like running around and
Yeah.
trying to get things. But like seeing bands now have like multiple accounts, and they're kind of like, we do different things on these things, but that's for a greater purpose, to be able to making sure that we
Yeah,
don't have all of our eggs on one basket and we're spread evenly.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it has definitely, think it's a net positive, but I mean, there's the argument to be made that having so much, like constantly having to be um adapting to these different social medias and having all of them even like kind of removes the mistake. It makes you accessible, in a way. And we love that because we want to be welcoming and open to people, and we like to think that we make ourselves seem like we are that way to people, and that is inviting. But like, with some different forms of art, if you will, like, people want that mystery to still be there. So like, how can you still promote yourself in this day and age and have that,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah,
don't know. It's
and
not
to your
important to
credit,
us though. So
yeah, and to your credit, there's like certain people that like that's not what they crave. And I'll keep um a really close friend of mine. He plays in a very very pop, and I'm not just saying this to try to flex. It's like I'm just trying to create the context, but I'm leaving his
yeah.
name out of it intentionally. Plays in a very popular hardcore band, and when he was in town last and we were chatting, he was saying how um like his band has gotten so big, almost like too big that he initially wanted it to be. So now he's like,
Yeah,
I
dude.
can't even post about me going to something that's not hardcore related because when like there's been times I've showed up to that and people have like gone to that event just to meet me and talk about my demo. And I'm like,
No, yeah.
oh, that's really strange. And so there's a
Yeah.
weird thing where it's like, yes, accessibility is great when it comes to being able to connect with your friends, your fans, and make new friends. And like you guys were easily accessible for me to reach out and set up this podcast. But there is always a a cost when it comes to that, where it's like, oh, if we got like astronomically big, the message requests and the notifications are going crazy. And then it becomes a thing where it's like, well, now I'm going to feel weird about us changing our accessibility. And then our fans are, because they know us for that. So, yeah, that's an interesting point of like being able to be aware of that. But I have always seen that bands and people in bands that are pro accessible when it comes to reaching out and talking always seem to just do way better than people that are just closed off.
Yeah, I mean, I gravitate towards that, and I hope that people like that about us too. So
Mhm.
try and be. I don't know. I don't get to all the messages, and I do my best to remember everyone and try and get to all of them. But I'm glad that I can still do that. But it
Yeah.
sounds like a nice problem to have, to be so popular
Oh,
that
yes. That I think that's the best way to say it. It's like it is a nice problem to have people that want to connect with you. So going back to like the other ways that the band is like, being aware of like uh addressing the marketing and the advertisement of the band. Something that I thought was hilarious. And I don't know if this is a you or a Chrissy thing or a Jesse thing. Um Whenever you guys get hate comments, it's always met with your mom jokes as rebuttals.
Oh, yes.
And
That's Chrissy's sport. I'm
if
glad you liked that.
I think that's hilarious because it's like you are coming at to you like that person is coming at you guys with a middle school child's level of thought and brain function, and you are meeting them but also destroying them at their own game, in my opinion.
Hey, I think Chrissy is really good at it. I support her doing that as much as she wants to. However, however, perhaps at some point it would seem like we've become the bully that we so desire to not be. You become the you live long enough to see yourself become the villain sort of thing, or
Hmm.
whatever the fuck they Batman, right?
Hmm.
No, she's good at it and I support it. And that's like, okay, so you were talking about like what's good for what social medias and whatnot, right? That's Twitter, like in a nutshell. I have a Twitter. It has like probably like 60 followers or some shit. Like I never use it. I'm really bad at it. I don't like it, but like that's like when I think of Twitter, I think of that. Like You suck. Your mom.
Hmm.
Retweet.
And
It's
nine,
like,
and sometimes it's even like friends, like who are just outright just saying it to their other friends, just being like, "Fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot," or
yeah,
whatever it is. So,
for sure.
um, did did you end were was the not the backlash, but if there's any like people that uh did any of these negative comments or anything that was like negative about you guys, like has that always been apparent in this band's existence, or just in the last little while when certain videos or certain things would just pop up and just go a little further than just the regular algorithm?
Yeah, I mean, we've we look a certain way and we do what we do, and there's very opinionated people in our genre, so it's always been like a thing for us. But like, I don't know, it fuels the fire even more, sort of.
Right.
But I will say now, this year in particular, like the outreach has sort of bubbled out, and like all these random people like find their way on the page, and like the insults they have are very perplexing. It's like we posted a picture. We were in New Orleans, and we posted a picture. There's like a big Andrew Jackson sculpture there, and we just posted a goofy ass picture, like flipping it off, and our photographer friend Jonathan like put in like Comic Sans on the bottom, Andrew Jackson's a mark ass buster. Like it was just like a goofy little photo, like, it wasn't
Right.
that serious and stuff, and we posted it, and, like, somehow, like, on Facebook specifically, like, it took that in its algorithm, and it just went, like, we went to bed, and overnight, like, the picture had a bunch of likes from people, and people being like, "That's cool," but it had all these comments from these, like, right-wing boomer, like, parents,
Oh.
like how Andrew Jackson was great, and then like our fans and friends and like some native friends being like, fuck, like you should check this out. Like this was actually really horrible, and like XYZ, and like it was like, and then so of course like Chrissy couldn't resist, and like we were doing like copy, like this one guy said this crazy long thing, and we made it a copy pasta, and we were like copying it and pasting it under all their comments to like egg them on and stuff,
Right.
and we still use that copy pasta. It's a great copy pasta,
Hmm. Yeah.
but yeah, like and Chrissy's actually picked up on this on like
How
Facebook.
long I want to read said coffee pasta if that's possible.
Yes, I will try, and if you get a random message from us in the next this evening or tomorrow, and it looks unhinged, that's what you're reading.
Okay. Like how long ago was that? I'm just curious if I could pull it up on the
Oh,
on the
it's
recording.
definitely possible. We've posted the picture since probably a few times afterwards, but that one in particular, I think it was when we were in New Orleans in September. Yeah, I think it was
In
September,
September.
and it must.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was either the end of August or September, but I'm pretty sure it was September.
Okay.
But yeah, like like how random, like these like random
Yeah.
people that have, and then like because they don't like what you said about Andrew Jackson, they're like, your music doesn't sound like music. There's no notes and like shit like that. It's like they're not
Where's
so
the
like
notes? And
so
that is
like
wild.
that's real goofy, and that's kind of fun and exciting. Um Now I'm not as prolific as Riley from Power Trip was at trolling the conservative types, but I hope to one day maybe be. So if
Right.
we have more controversial content that goes off on Facebook, I'll try and try on some fools.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm trying to pull it up here because it's like right. It seems to be right around the time y'all like released your record as well, or just
Yeah,
before
I
that.
think it
So
was.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm going
mhm,
through the announcements there
it was just before that.
just before that. Okay, I feel like it would be better
Oh,
shared on the pod versus I just read it after just myself. But
oh yes, absolutely. Here,
let's
I gotta. I'll for our visual people, only because I know where it is. Someone liked that photograph so much that at a subsequent show that we played at, they made a puzzle out of it and gifted it to
What?
us. Yeah. So there's a bunch of puzzle pieces in there.
Wow. Is that an
I just
official piece
remember
of merch or just an unofficial? That's a bootleg.
this is unofficial. It was just a darling fan that
I don't-
made this. It was really cool.
That's
I was
so
not gifted
funny.
this personally, so I don't remember who or where it was from, but it's on top of my bookshelf right there, so I thought of it.
That is too funny. Well, I'm sorry to all the listeners. I'm struggling to find it. Maybe we'll post it in the comments of this podcast as a
I just
goof.
DM'd it to you.
Oh, you did?
Eh,
Oh,
oh,
producer
no.
Jordan coming through.
That's
I
what
DM'd it 2
producers
minutes
are
ago, but you didn't see the message.
Okay. Oh, but this is the
That's what-
Instagram not the Facebook post.
we did a lot of them. They just go places now. I don't even I don't even know.
Oh,
You just
here's the
know.
coffee pasta. But you can't say all our founding fathers suck.
Oh, there's
Man.
quite a few of them. That's even one that I forgot about. There was another one where a guy was talking about how he was a lone wolf, and that it got very deep and nonsensical. But it starts out with "I am a lone wolf." That was pretty good. That was
Oh,
pretty good.
geez. Well, yeah,
There's quite a few.
yeah, it's wild that that you could post something that you're like, but like the majority, I would hope that the 99.9% of our fan base, hopefully 100%, all is on the right side of this conversation, or pun intended. But then you post it on Facebook, and then it could get shared to one Facebook group and then just explode with a ton of other
Oh yeah.
not right people coming into that conversation. So that's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. It works in our favor too in a lot of ways. Like one cool page in like Mexico or like fucking Prague or Indonesia will share your like little clip and like you'll get all these like fans from there that places you've never been to
Yeah.
like all at once. And that's happened before for us too. And yeah, we it just makes you want to go and oh my god, I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
That was yeah, it just makes you want to go play more places too.
So aside from like right-wing conservative, like like comments like that, are there any other things that do any of the other ones get to you where there's anything about like, oh, like
Mm,
this isn't real grindcore, what's the deal with this girl singing or anything like that? I think it's
yeah.
really awesome to see the just again the diversity that like the hardcore air quotes bubble that
Yeah.
covers all is on right now. But there's still, unfortunately, in 2023 a lot of people that will just keyboard warrior their shitty opinions on things. So I'm just curious if any of that gets to you and how you get through some of that.
It used to. And when we started out, it really did. But like, I don't know. I've heard it all. I've heard the craziest shit. Like I've seen the craziest shit. I get crazy DMs too. Like I've seen it all. So like I'm over it. I just don't like. A lot of times it's kind of best if you just don't read shit when it comes out. Like for example, like if a big video with like lots of views and stuff comes out with your live show, I'll wait a while to read the comments because
Right.
like I know there's going to be something in there that probably I won't like or that misinterprets who I am or who my bandmates are and stuff in a lot of different ways. The reason my parents have taken to watching our YouTube videos and like they do not like this music at all. They don't care for what I do, but they like got very offended and defensive when they read a comment about girls can't be in grindcore. This sucks or whatever. So I'm like, you don't even like this, and you're getting really, really heated about this one random guy. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I,
Yeah. And
I mean, it's probably just best if you know yourself. Um, if you know yourself and you know you might get upset and dwell on it for a while, just don't read them for a while. Like you're not gonna gain anything really significant. Like you can have a friend tell you if people like it or not or whatever. I don't know.
right.
Like it's not worth it. Just don't bother.
Yeah. Like I think it's like there is there's a little bit of like it's very rare for someone to give you feedback or criticism and have it come from like a genuine place. Like it's like, hey, I have X number of years of experience and like I think, you could be doing this better. Like there are times like when I was filming bands, none of those comments were necessarily I would say 10% of the comments were directed at my filming style. Like, oh, the camera's too shaky or whatever.
Yeah.
But the 90% was like of the band that I was documenting and archiving for the channel. Since starting the podcast, it's a little bit more of a 50-50 split off of people talking about that person in the band and like a specific moment that we might cover, a hot take that we might share. But there's a little bit more criticism on like my interviewing style, how much I'm talking, and
Because it's your product, like
yeah,
yeah.
totally. And I had to kind of like really read those comments critically with like, is this someone who's like just out to
Mhm.
lunch and just wanting to talk some shit, or do they actually have a point? And I was
Yeah.
looking at I had Kat from Scowl on the show a long time ago, and I think the top comment, and I'm saying this publicly because I think other people could get some value out of it, is like, um, oh, interviewer just likes to interview himself, and I watched it back, and I was like, nope. There was times maybe I like wanted to share more, and Kat was like apologizing off of her talking too much, which I dispelled immediately. I was like, you should not need to apologize. My style for this show is I've allowed people just to like talk aimlessly, and then it becomes like not a enriching conversation. If I know that if I'm bored, I'm sure the listener is bored as well. So,
Yeah.
there's
A lot
a
of times people start talking and then they don't know where it's gonna go, and then they just are like, "Well, I'm stuck with this."
yeah. Which, to be fair, there's definitely been times where I've been like, I listen back at like earlier episodes of like, oh, like I don't even know what I was trying to say in that section. But I feel like, you know, I don't want to just sit on a call here and be like, here's my point by point, discussion with you off of your music and your band and what you're doing. Like, I enjoy being able to have a back and forth and being able to like dig deeper onto something that you might say. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, it's just the fucking comment section, and like most of those people you will never meet in your regular life anyways. So fuck them.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly, and, like, whatever. In the end, you know, yeah, just not worth it. Not
Hmm.
worth it for yourself or for your creativity or, for your, spirit in a lot of ways. So,
Right.
mm, yeah.
Things that are good for your spirit. I saw a video that someone was yo-yoing at one of your shows.
Yeah, that was the last show of our tour. It was cold as shit. So, as long as they were staying warm. Yeah, that was in Kansas City. Kansas
And we
City
all
is a
know the best way to
crazy
stay
town.
warm is yo-yoing.
Illinois. Yeah, Kansas City throws down in a very special way. Um, like people were just like absolutely annihilating it. It was freezing. It was absolutely freezing at that show. People were like taking their friends and like like dive bombing that mission. It was like insane. I've never seen that shit. Like I know now it's kind of let's see the next craziest thing that can happen in the pit and whatnot.
Right.
But Yo-Yo is definitely up there. He was very cool,
Yeah.
and I appreciate it.
I've
And
I've seen a
I
lot
think
of
he dropped
things.
his Yo-Yo. Oh, I'm
No, no,
sorry.
no, you go. You go.
Like he was yo-yoing with it. I think he was like perhaps circle pitting with the yo-yo or walking in
Oh,
that fashion.
like
He
walk the
dropped the
dog with
yo-yo.
the yo-yo in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
circle.
And he dropped it, and like everyone was kind of like running to get the yo-yo so it wouldn't get stomped on
Right.
in the pit, as if it were like an actual human being that you needed to lift up in the pit and make sure they weren't okay. Like everyone was very
Yeah.
concerned. So
I'm
I
sure his
appreciated that.
urgency showed that it wasn't just like a $5 yo-yo that he picked up at a budget toy store. I'm sure he's paid a pretty penny for that yo-yo.
Oh yes. Oh, well, on the flip side of the yo-yo though, we went to so we just got back from a 50-date tour with the band Exhumed from California, and they're awesome, and we were so grateful to have them add us onto that tour last minute. But while we were on that tour, we went to like a JC Penney, which I didn't know those still existed, and Jesse got a RC car there, and
Oh, okay.
and so similar to the yo-yoing, Jesse during Exhume's set a few times was taking the RC car and driving it around in the pit, like making it do circle pits, and it was like a flippy car and stuff. And
That's
like everywhere, people were like, "Ah, "Yeah, wow, cool." We did it from like Brooklyn to like probably like 10 dates of this, and everyone was like laughing, haha, that's cool. In Orlando, Florida, this one guy got so upset over that RC car's existence, and he was letting it happen for a while, and then he got frustrated. I didn't see this happen firsthand. Jesse told me all about it, but he like picked up the RC car and threw it against the wall and stuff. It was like, and so three times that happened actually. And so
oh.
then so Jesse just like grabbed the car and was like, "Hey, chill, stop it! Like, what are you doing?" Like he like
The
let him
first
know it's
time it's
not
like,
cool.
okay, you don't like our, an car kills your family, we get it. But then to do it two
It's
times
like
over that.
It's like they got a guy in a surgical like outfit, like pouring blood and stuff. Like it's goofy, like already. Like it's cool, it's theatrical. Like the RC car, I felt fit the situation. But the guy was like so pissed off, he's like stoked off to the bar and was like talking shit about it. Like the whole time at the bar, he was like at the bar, like so pissed off about this RC
The
car.
guy's
Like
claiming the pint glass. Oh yeah.
so
Mm.
that's another favorite pit story.
Yeah.
RC car in the pit.
I'm sure that guy went home and laid in bed being like, did I actually just get mad about an RC car at a grind show? I need to
He's
get my
probably
life in order.
probably writing a manifesto about it right now. He's
Yeah.
probably
Oh
probably
no. No.
no, no, I shouldn't say stuff like that. But
Yeah, yeah, maybe not.
he's writing.
He's probably
He's
writing a very strongly worded angry letter to that RC car company.
there you
I
go.
was at a show that one of your products was at, and it ruined my night. And I have 30 Instagram followers. Okay, yeah. Now we're going off on too much of a tangent. Out of all the touring that you did in 2022, is there any other pit stories
Ooh,
or
God.
funny pit moments that you would like to share?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, like 2022 was the year of like the quirky pit moment, I feel like. Outside of our band, we had Turnstile. Was that not this year where someone dropped a deuce in the pit?
Yep.
That was pretty iconic. But yeah, so
I hope
that's
someone fesses up to that one day.
they will. They'll tell their grandchildren about it.
No, I
and,
want that person to come on this podcast to talk. If you're listening and that's your shit,
get at me.
hit my line. Do not hit my line. You need to have proof. Because I know I'm going to get DMs
There you
being
go.
like, oh, it was me. And then I'm like, no, there's no way.
Oh, I love it. Well, for our shows, we had some fun pit memories. So we went to Europe for the first time this year, and like Europeans dance quite differently to we do. They call it like American style dancing. Whenever you hardcore dance, it's cute. But yeah, we were playing like a lot of like grindcore stuff, and like we were hardcore dancing for that, like because we were usually the last band. We were the last band that was on every night, so we were like dancing for the other bands, like hardcore dancing, and so it got people hype, and they started like doing it, and that's not the norm for European shows, so that was really cool to see. But there's this one thing that they do over there that's so funny to me. They like one if someone like really likes what's going on stage, one person will get up on the stage and they'll start like rowing like
Oh,
they're in the boat, and then the other guy will get behind them and they'll all start and there's like a whole line. And so then when the once the line gets big enough, then they'll have another person run and jump on top of the line and get pushed down the line and it becomes a conveyor belt of sorts. We like that. We saw a lot of that at Obscene Extreme.
mhm.
Um, Obscene Extreme, we had this one dude was so fucking cool. Like he was really awesome. I chatted with him afterwards, but in this video, I didn't know he did this because, but when I was talking to him, but in the video we saw later, he got up on stage right by the monitor, like the stage monitor, and everyone knows how kind of big those are. They're not like super big, but he became the size of that monitor, and he like put his legs behind his head and his head like under up to his butt. I don't even know how he did it, but he contorted himself into a pretzel and was like had one fist out and was like going yeah 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 like as a pretzel, and like we took a little clip of that and we called him Pretzel Man and people shared him all over the place and stuff. He was really cool.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was awesome. He came up after like the set and was like, I loved you guys, and then he's like, want to smoke? And everyone over there smokes
Only if
like
you're smoking in that pretzel shape that
cigarette.
you did earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was like, I want to smoke a spliff, and I don't smoke spliffs. So he MacGyvered a bong out of like found objects and made a bong so that we could
Who
have a
is
hit
this
together.
man?
It was
Who is Pretzel Man?
just an incredible Israeli grindcore lover.
Well, shout
Well,
out
that
to
was
Pretzel
great.
Man if you're listening.
Pretzel,
You left an impact on people through your flexibility and
absolutely.
your MacGyver ness. Um,
And if it's any indication of how fucked our world is, like people had shit to talk about Pretzel Man too. So like just if you get hate on the internet, just know you could be the most purest, coolest soul like Pretzel Man and still get some hate. So
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, hate is gonna hate. Pretzel Man just wants to live. Um,
keep switching.
Before we start to wrap up, Katerina, when you think about
Yeah.
this new record, it's not even a year old as far as it being out, and I'm sure the year outside of the Napalm Death tour that y'all are doing in February, right? That's when that's happening.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm sure.
February not 12th. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, what is maybe the one thing that you're hoping to manifest for the band, for not only the band but yourself as well, whether that's already on the books or things that you're hoping come to fruition in this year to come?
Yeah, a lot of it is on the books and I can't talk about it right now, but so we're so excited and grateful for that. Like our year is really like filling out. It's pretty much almost all booked out, so we're doing as many shows as we can, as much as we can. Um, gosh, what can I say? What can I say? Um, it's for me personally, and the others can speak to what drives them and what's exciting for them. But of course, we want to play all cool festivals and whatnot. But for us, it's all about going places we haven't been before, and I don't really care where that is. Like on this last tour and this last year of touring, we hit like small towns and whatnot that we've never played before. Um, and they were some of the greatest shows we've ever had. Like, and there are places that we've gone back to like 2 months later, and like it's been even bigger crowds and even more fun. So like,
Mhm.
care where it is, like we want to go there. Obviously, I want to go like Japan and like Australia and like and play like shows in Southeast Asia because like they really fucking care about what we do, heavy music, and they really support a lot of like underground American bands, but like it's not easy to go over there and to play. So a lot of the people there don't get to see American bands a lot. So we want to do that. We want to go there. Mexico, South America, definitely. So as many different places as we can go. We want to, and we want to see all sorts of towns, small towns, big towns, rural as we played in a cornfield and it was lit. So I'm cool with that. Like,
Right. Well, I hope Western Canada, where I'm based, is maybe on that
yes,
list.
I want to.
Whether that's this year or next, if there's any interest there, I got the people to help make that happen. Um,
Hell
the last section of this podcast, Katerina, and this is something I ask every single guest who comes on the show, and every single time we end an episode with this. Tell me a favorite mosh related story. And so that could be wholesome, funny, gruesome, something that happened to you, something that just happened at a show you were attending. Whatever's the first thing to your head, mosh wise.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Of the many, I will say. Um,
There's always
oh,
too
it's
many
such a
to choose
bummer.
from.
I know. I don't want to end with a bummer, but it's kind of like the when you said mosh story, I always think about this first because I'm like, "Ugh." But like when I was young, I was at a show and like the pits were really intense back then. I was late teens, like probably like 19 or something like that. No, I was 18. I was 18. And I was definitely 18. And I saw like the pit was getting extreme and we have SSU shit. And at the time that was like shit that was going down and like people were starting to fight. So I was like, oh, I'm getting out of here. And like the second I turned my back, like someone hit me from behind and I like smashed my entire face. Like I got so fucked up and like the venue didn't give a shit and the people that were there didn't give a shit and like it was just an awful experience. So like every time I hear mosh, I'm like just like that. Like I want to mosh and like I was still like beat up like I was moshing, right?
Mm.
That's so depressing. I don't want to talk about that. But flip it, reverse it, Missy Elliott it. That moment though that I had like was something I don't know, it lit something in me that I like want to do something about this. Like I want to be a part of this like for real though. Like
Hmm.
as soon as I was like better and stuff, I want to like from that point on it was and I'm not like advocating for like safe space things or you have to do things this way or you have to, keep your spaces this way or whatever. Whatever form that takes for your community, that's fine. But like for me, ever since that happened to me, I wanted to take that experience and make shows better for everyone and like everyone that includes people that dance that includes people that don't dance like
Hmm.
on this last tour we did like I noticed that a lot of the venues like we were having fans that were coming out that were in wheelchairs and stuff and there was nowhere for them to go to like watch the bands right and like I was like wow that lit another spark in me to like want to make shows better for them and
Hmm.
that affects my life too. 'Cause mom's been in a wheelchair all my life so I like always think about that but like never in a show setting was I really thinking about stuff like that so
Yeah.
there's always going to be
Mm.
something that you find no matter what story it is that you can make better by you implementing something for your community, for shows, even while you're on the road. So that's kind of been a philosophy of mine personally since that experience that I had when I was younger. And although it's like a bummer and it really fucked me up and it like fucked my face up bad, I got over it. I was fortunate that I had support to get over it, and it like made me want to do something about it. So
Mm.
like hope you don't have to get punched to do something about it, but some of us need to get punched to do something about
Yeah.
their
No.
situation. So
Yeah. I appreciate, even though it's not something I wish on anyone to have a mosh injury that results in them having to do a hospital visit or anything like that. Like obviously, like the type of music that we play is in within that like there's going to be violence, there's going to be craziness, there's going to be like you have to be in tune with your spidey senses, but naturally things go
yeah,
wrong and people get hit, people have clothing ripped off of them like unexpectedly. And I'm only thinking of that because during the time we're recording this, FYA Fest in Florida is happening, and Colin
yeah.
Young, who's been on the show before, I guess
Oh, nice.
he was stage diving to Gridiron and like just fully ripped his like really expensive camo pants fully open.
No,
So
no.
I was just like thinking about it. He was like, that happens. So, but all that to be said, I do like how you ended and connected it all with like if there's a change that you want to see or something that inspires you, instead of just
You
complaining
that's
about it
it.
or posting about it or talking shit about it for years to come and just being this grumpy old jaded hardcore person, doing something about it, whether it's like, okay, I'm gonna like say something in between my set when it comes to that wheelchair scenario that you were mentioning, or there's things that I can do with my band, or like I'm gonna start my own venue where we have like things in place where we're setting up a good show that's gonna have mosh, but it's gonna be like contained in a way where we can shut it down if things are getting just unnecessarily violent. It's the same thing for me when, I was growing up in a scene where, because Western Canada is kind of spread out and lots of tourists didn't come here, it was like, well, I could sit about this and just complain about it forever, or I could do something about it. I'm gonna start filming shows and showcase that we do have a scene. So hopefully bands
Exactly.
and booking people want to change that. And that's been doing that shit for 5 years now, and I'm only starting to see the fruits of my labor and the labor of everyone else who's helped me with this project of like, oh, like people actually talk about Western Canada now. And that's just like the overarching goal with this project is like be able to to talk to someone but like still connect that back to Western Canada. So if getting you on the podcast to talk about your band helps in time get your
Really.
band to come tour here, I call that a big fat dub for us. So
Hell yeah.
um so
We're going we're going to Canada, Western Canada.
yeah, baby. Mark your fucking calendars.
Hell yeah.
Katerina, all the band links and your links will be in the description and in the show notes and all that
Awesome.
good shit. If there's anyone you want to shout out, anything you want to send the people off with, or anything you want to end on, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Um, Thank you, first of all. This was awesome. It was really cool doing like a long, awesome interview, and I appreciate that. And like I'm so grateful. Um, I guess in terms of shout outs, you got all the links there. You know where to find us. But I have to give a special shout out to our label. We got signed to a label this year, and they're awesome. Not everyone knows their name specifically, but a lot of the acts that they have on their roster, and there's signing a lot of really cool upcoming bands. So, like, if you like us and you like bands that hustle like us, bands that kind of sound like us, sometimes kind of don't, like, because not everyone is the same. On Monarch Heavy is the label. So MNRK is our label, and they're awesome, and we love our label mates, and
I
we love
am
what
is
we've been
on
able to do.
Monarch, right?
Yeah, yeah. I am Creeping Death, another band we got to shout out. Callous Dow Boys, they're cool. We love them. We want to tour with them too. Hatebreed and Judas Priests are on our label, so like that's cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They don't need the shout
I
out.
am is great friends of Scoped, and I
Nice.
remember talking with Andrew because I was like, didn't y'all get signed to a label? But like, and then he told me a little bit about the name change and all that. So I'll definitely
Yeah.
include Monarch and their link in the description as well.
Perfect.
Katerina, great conversation. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Likewise, dude. Thank you.